Okay, good tavach everyone. As we are sponsored by A.B. Spry for nachas from children, grandchildren, the entire family, by Baruch Ian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim and Abbas, Tabas Gittel, Avram Ben Shmuel Kaim, by Yaakov Yumansky, with a curse of type to the Rav, the Zoom family, and nachas from children and grandchildren, Ra'ed Salah from London, Joshua Rosenberg, and by Shalom Fogel, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Zeb Ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Sivya Miriam Bas God, Yosef Ben Sion Ben Yaakov Zev, then the Neshama should have an aliyah. We have the pleasure of welcoming in Saba and Mel Zachter and Aaron Swade, Nachman Chapler, A.B. Spry, Yisrael Fisher, Bruce Eisenberg, Dr. Block, Barish Gesserman, Marshall Castle, Mark Frankel, the Aguda with Michal Avram Chavin and Ruvain Shannon, Shimon Deer, great to see you, Shimon, Stephen Holtzman, Michal Akhtar, Irving Fishbaum. I don't see who that is. Has that been seen, Cohn? Your camera is not. Rabbi Kranz, Yitzi Muller, Ilya Shutman. David Helfgott on Kolosh, and here comes Yitzi Fuchs. And we are holding at the very top of Nun Tes tonight. We have a very big simcha. We finish Perek Cheskes Habatim, which is like a Masechta unto itself, and it's a very, very wonderful accomplishment to finish such a wonderful Perek, and bravo to all of you. It was a very, I tried to entice people to join us for the summer, to tell them that we have such an accomplishment on the summer, and we Stephen Holtzman, we are at the top of Nun Tes Amud Aleph. So Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah that Hamaschila, if let's say Marshall has a gutter that runs along the length of his roof over my courtyard, yesh lo chazaka. There he has a chazaka after 3 years. So the Gemara says, Bishleim elamandi amahanach tarte. According to the opinions about the drain spout, that Marshall doesn't have a chazaka by the drain spout because I could tell him to move it to the other side of the roof, or that it's talking about telescoping out a drain spout, and that he doesn't have a chazaka and a drain spout that stretches far, and I could ask him to make it shorter, and so then we could understand why this does not apply by the gutter, because by the gutter, Marshall does have a chazaka. There, I can't tell him to move it; it goes across the entire roof, and I can't tell him to shorten the gutter. But according to the Mandiyama, that it says that if I want to build under the drain spout, I could build under it. My nafkalemina, what does Marshall care if I build under the gutter? And why should he have a chazaka that I shouldn't be able to build under the gutter? So the Gemara says, Hacha b'maschila shel binyan askinan. Here we're talking about a gutter that's made out of stone. And what Marshall doesn't want is me to build underneath it and undermine the structure of the permanent gutter. I don't want you to undermine with banging and building under my gutter to undermine the walls of the gutter. Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. Tzinner hamekaleach mayim l'chotzer. Marshall has a pipe that causes water to drain into my courtyard. Now, we said that he develops a chazaka, and I can't tell him to close it off. And now Marshall wants to seal the pipe. So the Gemara says, I could stop him. The Amalei, because I could say to him, just like you have rights in my courtyard to dump your water, I also acquired the rights to get the water from your roof, so you can't stop it. I already got used to having that water source. So Itmar, Rab Oishia Amar Ma'akiv, Rab Oishia says that I could stop Marshall from sealing up the pipe. Rab Chama Amar Eina Ma'akiv, Rab Chama says I can't stop him. Also Shailei LeRabbi Bisa, they went and asked Rabbi Bisa, Amalu Ma'akiv, I could stop him from closing it up. Now, it happens to be that this is 3 generations, because Rabbi Oishia was the son of Rav Chama and the grandson of Rabbi Bisa. So that means 3 noteworthy scholars of 3 generations. And the Gemara comments on that, how beautiful it is. A triple cord, loy b'meheri yanasek, will not quickly unravel. Zeh Rabbi Oishia b'noishel Rabbi Chama b'noishel Rabbi Bisa. This is Rabbi Oishia, the son of Rabbi Chama, who was the son of Rabbi Bisa. 3 generations of incredible learning. As we welcome in Chaim Braun. Chaim, welcome, as we are just starting in process on Daf Nun Tes Amud Aleph, Mamish, midway down the Daf, and Gedalia Engel is joining us as well. Welcome, Gedalia. Gedalia, we're holding Mamish midway down the Daf of Nun Tes Amud Aleph. The Mishnah says, Sulam HaMitzri ein loy chazaka. If I lean a small ladder on Marshall's wall, I don't develop a chazaka to lean it there. And the Gemara says, what's a small ladder? Heichidami sulim hamitzri. Imrei Rabbi Yanai kol she'ein loy arba chavakin. If it doesn't have 4 rungs, so that's a small ladder. The idea is if the owner of the house leans the ladder there, and he can't say, even if he does it 3 years, that he has a chazaka to do it in my courtyard, because if it's a small ladder, I wouldn't bother to protest. Now, chaloina mitzri, it's a small window, ein lo chazaka. Now, the Mishnah goes on to explain what a small window is. And it didn't explain what a small ladder is. So the Gemara wants to wonder why that is. Why by the ladder it doesn't explain what's a small ladder? Or by the window, the mefaresh. So the Gemara says because by the window there was a machlokes. There was an opinion that says that it's if you can't fit your head through it. And then there was another opinion that it doesn't have a frame around it. Says the Gemara, Mishum de Kabaya Flige Rabbi Yehuda b'Sefer. Rabbi Yehuda argues about it, and he says if it has a frame, even if you can't fit your head through it, it's already considered a big window. So since there's a machlokes, that's why it talks about it. Amar Rabbi Zera, Lamato Medalet Amos Yesh Lo Chazaka. If it's below 4 amos, so that there. From that window you could see into the courtyard, then yesh lo chazaka, then if it's there for 3 years, you develop a chazaka, but v'yochel limchos, you could stop it because it's an invasion of privacy. L'mala ma'arba amos, if the window is higher than 4 amos, ein lo chazaka, there's no chazaka, meaning that even after 3 years, the owner of the courtyard could build a wall and block it up. But he can't stop him from having that window because since it's so high up, 4 amos is is like 8 feet high. Since it's so high up, it's not an invasion of privacy. Even if it's higher than 4 amos, but he could stop it. Now the question is, why could you stop it? So the Gemara says, "Leima b'kayfen al midas daim kamiflagi." The question is, do we force a person to allow something to be done when it's zenene v'zeh lo yichasa? Because a window that's higher than 8 feet, it's lo yichasa. The marsavar kayfen, and therefore you can't stop him. Or marsavar ain't kayfen. We don't force him to allow it. If he doesn't want it, he doesn't want it. Says like the kuli alma kayfen. We force if it's zen and if it's a loichaser. But over here, it might be loy chaser. It might be chaser, because the person could take a bench or a step stool, stand up, and then when he's standing, he could look through the window. So the Gemara says, there'll be a time that you'll take your bench, put it underneath you, v'kaimis, and stand up for kachazis, and look through the window, and then invade my privacy. Somebody came before Rab Ami with the question of whether you could stop a window that's higher than 4 amas. Shadrei lekami de Rab Abba bar Mamel. He sent him before Rab Abba bar Mamel. Amalei, and he told him that halach is like Rabbi Law. That Amalei Ovid like Rabbi Law, that even if it's higher than 4 amas, you could protest, you could be moicha. Amar Shmuel, ula oira, if however the window is for light purposes. Now, if the window could be for ventilation, the window could be to see things far away, but if the window was to let in light, then afilu kolshu, even if it's very small, yesh le chazaka, even if it's very small, if he has it there for 3 years, you cannot block it up. Now, says the Mishnah, haziz, a projection coming outside of a wall, ad tefach, if it's long the projection, like a flagpole, something to hang things on, if it's longer than a tefach, up to a tefach, then yesh le chazaka. Then if he has it there for 3 years, he has a chazaka. V'yochel limchus, you could stop him from having it there. If, however, pachis metefach, if it's less than a tefach, ein le chazaka, because he just doesn't bother protesting. But if, let's say, he wants to do construction, he could tell him to remove it. But ve'ein yochel limchus, but he can't stop him from having it there if he's not doing construction. Now, Amar Rabasi, Amar Mani, V'imir lo Amar Rab Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Mani, Hirzik b'tefach, if the projection is a tefach, Hirzik b'dalit, he has a chazaka for 4 tvachim. So the Gemara says, my comment, but because it projected 1 tefach, he has a chazaka for 4 tvachim? What does that mean? Amar Baya Hachi Kamer, Hirzik roichev tefach, if he had a projection, like a plank, that was wide a tefach b'meshech arba, and it stuck out 4 tvachim. So once he had it stretched out 4 tvachim, even though it was only the width of a tefach, he could do it up to the width of 4 tvachim. Hirzik b'roich of arba. Once he has a projection of a tefach, once he has a projection of 4 tvachim with the width of a tefach, he could do it 4 tvachim with the width of 4 tvachim. Now, pachis metefach, if it's less than a tefach, if the projection was less than a tefach, ein lo chazaka, he doesn't develop a chazaka, so if I want to do construction, I could tell him to remove it. Ve'eina yochel limchus. Now the Gemara says over here, Amar Rav Huna, lo yishanu el bala gag v'bala chotzer. Let's say it's my house, and I have a projection covering my house over Marshall's courtyard. So he says that I can't stop it. Who can't stop what? Amar Rav Huna lo yishanu el bala gag v'bala chotzer. If I project from my house a projection into Marshall's courtyard, I can't stop Marshall from using it. After all, it's going in his courtyard. The Tanna Kama holds that I could stop Marshall, who lives downstairs, could stop me from using the projection, because he doesn't want me leaning over and looking into the courtyard. Rabbi Yehuda says, Bal Chotzer b'Bal Agag, the Bal Chotzer, that's Marshall, can't stop me from using the projection either. Any yochalimchas. Now, the Gemara assumes that must be that the machlokes is whether hezek re'iyah shmei hezek or lo shmei hezek. So if you hold hezek re'iyah lo shmei hezek, so then marshal can't stop me from using it. If you hold hezek re'iyah shmei hezek, he'll say, look, when you use it, you're going to look into my courtyard. So lema behezek re'iyah kamiflagi. The ma'asav shmei hezek, it's considered a damage. Or ma'asav alav shmei hezek. Says Malay. Kuli alma shmei hezek. Everybody holds it is considered a damage. But v'shani hachi, it's different over here. The amalei, because I tell Marshall, l'tashmishta lo chazi. I'm not walking on that projection. L'may chazi l'mitla b'meidei. I want to hang something on it. When I hang it on, or when I take it off, mahadrana apai, I'll turn away my face, v'talina bei. I won't look in the courtyard. I could do it without looking in the courtyard. The Idach, Marshall says, no, I know, because since you're on the roof, you're afraid of falling, so you're not going to turn away and hang it because you're afraid of falling. Amalei zimnim da be'isis, you're going to be afraid of falling, you're going to look in my courtyard, and you know me, I do all kinds of hanky-panky in my courtyard. I don't want you looking in my courtyard. Now, says the new Mishnah, Lo yiftach adam chaloinoisav l'chatzer hashutfin. I can't open up a new window into a courtyard that I share with Marshall. Now, lokach bayis b'chatzer acheres. If, let's say, I have a house where the front of the house opens into chatzer A. The back wall of my house opens into chatzer B. Lo yiftachena b'chatzer hashutfin. I can't open up a back door into chatzer B, because then I would be increasing traffic, because all the people from chatzer A would then have access to chatzer B. Bona aliyah al gabe beisai. If I build a second story on my house, lo yiftachena l'chatzer hashutfin. I can't make a steps and a door coming down from the upper apartment, because then I'm adding traffic into the courtyard. Eli imrotza, if I want, and this is the maskana of the Gemara, how it learns. Eli imrotza boine es hacheder lifnim mi beisai. I could split my house. Let's say it's a ranch. I could split it into an inner apartment and an outer apartment, and let everybody come through the front door, because I'm not adding any extra space. Or boina aliyah al gabe beisai. If my ceiling of my first floor was 20 feet high, I could split it into two 10-feet apartments, first floor and a second floor, and have them come through my house and out the front door, because then I'm not adding any extra space, and therefore I'm allowed to do it. Now the Gemara says you can't open windows into a chatzer hashutfin. My area l'chatzer hashutfin, afilu chatzer chaver nami loy. I can't open up a window into somebody else's courtyard. It says it's building up to a climax. Of course I can't open up in a window into somebody else's courtyard, because that's an invasion of privacy. But into my partner's courtyard, I tell him, look, there's no invasion of privacy, because I could come into the courtyard whenever I want. I tell him there's no invasion of privacy, because I could come into the courtyard whenever I want, so you can't do anything private. Kamash Malan, the Amalei, the marshal will tell me, look, when I know you come out, so I have to be careful. But Hashta, if you're going to put a window there, then I'm going to have to be careful at all times. I'll have to be careful even when you're in the house. That much I don't want to have to do. Tan Rabbanan, there was a person that opened up a window into Marshall's, AB opened up a window into Marshall's courtyard, which he was a partner with as well. And Marshall didn't say anything after a week. Ubalifnei Rabbi Yishmael, and then they came before Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yossi. Now Rabbi Yishmael argues, here we're at the end of Cheskes Abatim, Rabbi Yishmael holds that you develop a chazakah right away. He doesn't need 3 years. He argues on the whole idea of 3 years. Amaloi herzakta b'ni herzakta. Abi got a chazakah. Marshall didn't say anything for a week. He can't stop him. However, Ba'alifnei Reb Chia came before Reb Chia, and Reb Chia said to him, sorry, Abi, Yogato Pesachta, you took effort to open it up. Yogav Esasim, you're going to have to take effort to close it. You don't develop a chazakah for such a thing until 3 years. Amar Rav Nachman, as we turn to Daf Samach Amud Aleph, it's pretty remarkable that we're coming down the finish line of the third parak of Bava Basra and the first volume of the Article. So if you learn with an Article Gemara tomorrow night, It's Hashem, you need a new volume. Says the Gemara, V'listain.
Not to change the title?
No, not yet. When we get to the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, V'listain, if, let's say, Marshall puts a wall in front of Abi's window. Abi has a pre-existing window, and he puts a wall in front of the window, and Abi is quiet, la'alter avi chazaka. Then everybody agrees that Marshall has the right to keep the wall there. Nobody has the habit that they close off his light source, and for the fact that Abi was silent for a week, it must be that Marshall bought the rights from him. Now, lokach bayis b'chotzer acheres, in the event, like we said, if I buy a house that is, it opens up into chotzer A on one side, but its back wall is to chotzer B. And now I want to make a back door so I could get into chotzer B. Lo yiftachenu l'chotzer hashutfin. I can't open it up into chotzer B. My time, because it's going to cause a lot of people to be able to enter into their courtyard, because now all the people of courtyard A will have easy access through the house to go through the back door into courtyard B. Says the Gemara, Ema Seifa, Elim Rotze, if he wants, we said he's not allowed to, the Mishnah goes on to say that he's not allowed to build an attic on top of his house and make a door for the attic apartment with steps down to the courtyard. You're not allowed to do that because you're adding extra traffic. But we said you could either divide your ranch into one apartment and an inner apartment, or one apartment and an upper apartment. He could build an apartment within his house, behind his house, or an apartment on top of his house. Says the Gemara assumes that it means to do extra construction. So if you're going to do extra construction, so again you're adding traffic. You're adding traffic. Rav Huna says, my cheder, it doesn't mean that he's making extra construction, apartment in the back, or an extra apartment on top. That you're not allowed to do. But it means shecholku b'shnayim. You take the existing width of your house and you divide it into two. So you're not adding any extra area. Or my aliyah, what does it mean, an apartment? Aptoi. It means you divide the height of your apartment. You had a tall ceiling, 20 feet. You divide it into two apartments of 10 feet each, so 10 feet high each. So you're not adding any extra room. That's not considered adding traffic. Okay, we're just going to pause a minute to change the channel over here.